Have you ever wondered why you overthink a simple text message? Or why saying no makes you feel guilty? Why criticism stays with you for days, while compliments disappear in minutes? Why you keep chasing approval, even from people who barely notice you? Most of us believe these are just personality traits. We say, that's just how I am. But what if they aren't? What if many of the habits you struggle with today were actually learned long before you even understood what emotions were? The truth is, your childhood didn't just give you memories. It taught your brain how to survive. As children, our brains are constantly learning one important question. What do I need to do to feel safe, loved, and accepted? Every interaction with parents, caregivers, teachers, and the people around us becomes a lesson. If expressing emotions was welcomed, we learned that our feelings matter. If making mistakes was met with patience, we learned that failure isn't something to fear. But if love felt conditional, if you were constantly criticized, ignored, compared to others, or expected to grow up too quickly, your brain adapted. Not because something was wrong with you, because that's what the human brain is designed to do. It builds survival strategies. Maybe you became the good kid who never caused problems because that earned you praise. Maybe you stopped asking for help because no one seemed to listen. Maybe you learned to hide your emotions because showing them only led to rejection. Back then, these behaviors protected you. They helped you navigate a world that felt unpredictable. The problem is, the brain doesn't automatically realize when the danger is over. Years later, those same survival strategies can quietly follow you into adulthood. They show up in your relationships, your friendships, your career, and even in the way you talk to yourself. You might think you're just too sensitive, or that you're bad at relationships, or that you're simply an overthinker. But often, these aren't flaws in your personality. They're echoes of experiences your younger self never had the chance to fully understand. This doesn't mean your childhood was entirely good or entirely bad. Most childhoods are a mixture of love, mistakes, comfort, and pain. And you don't need to have experienced extreme trauma for those early experiences to shape the way you see yourself in the world. The important thing to remember is this: the brain remembers what helped you survive, even when it no longer helps you live. And once you recognize those old patterns, you can begin to separate who you truly are from who you had to become. Because understanding your wounds isn't about blaming the past. It's about finally understanding yourself. The hidden wounds you may still carry. Hidden wound. Number 1. I have to earn love. Have you ever felt like you have to constantly prove your worth? You overwork, overgive, and overextend yourself because deep down, you believe that if you stop being useful, people might stop loving you. For many people, this belief begins in childhood. Maybe praise only came when you got good grades, behaved perfectly, or made the adults around you proud. Without realizing it, your brain connected love with achievement. The lesson became, I'm lovable only when I perform. As an adult, this can look like perfectionism, burnout, or feeling guilty every time you rest. Even when you've accomplished something amazing, it never feels like enough because your self-worth has become tied to what you do, not who you are. The truth is, love was never supposed to be something you had to earn. Hidden wound. Number 2. My feelings don't matter. Imagine a child who is told, stop crying, you're overreacting, or it's not a big deal. After hearing this enough times, the child stops expressing emotions, not because they disappear, but because they no longer feel safe to show. Years later, that child may become an adult who says, I'm fine, even when they're falling apart inside. They struggle to ask for help. They bottle everything up until the pressure becomes too much. Sometimes they don't even know what they're feeling anymore because they've spent years disconnecting from their emotions. The brain wasn't trying to hurt them. It was trying to protect them from rejection. But emotions don't disappear when we ignore them. They simply find quieter ways to ask for attention. Hidden wound. Number 3. I have to keep everyone happy. Here's something many people don't realize. Some children grow up believing that keeping everyone else calm is their responsibility. Maybe they lived in a home where arguments happened often. Maybe they learned to read everyone's mood before speaking. Maybe they became the peacemaker because conflict felt dangerous. Without realizing it, they became experts at taking care of everyone else. As adults, they apologize for things that aren't their fault. They struggle to say no. They constantly worry about disappointing others, even when it comes at the cost of their own happiness. This isn't kindness, it's a survival strategy, and survival strategies often continue long after they're needed. Before we move on, I want you to notice something. None of these wounds mean you're broken. They simply reveal the ways your younger self adapted to the environment they grew up in. But the next wound is one of the hardest to recognize, because most people mistake it for their personality. Hidden wound, number 4. I can only rely on myself. Some children learn very early that asking for help doesn't work. Maybe they were ignored. Maybe the adults around them were emotionally unavailable. Or maybe they had to grow up faster than they should have. Eventually, the child stops expecting support altogether. As an adult, they become fiercely independent. From the outside, they seem strong. They tell themselves, "I've got this." But underneath that independence is often a quiet fear. If I depend on someone, they'll let me down. So they carry every burden alone, even when help is available. Hidden wound. Number 5. Mistakes make me unworthy. Think about how a child feels when every mistake is met with criticism instead of understanding. Over time, they stop seeing mistakes as opportunities to learn. They begin seeing them as proof that they're not good enough. That fear doesn't disappear with age. It turns into perfectionism, overthinking, procrastination, fear of trying something new, not because they're incapable, but because failing feels emotionally unsafe. Their brain isn't avoiding failure, it's avoiding shame. Hidden wound. Number 6. If people see the real me, they'll leave. Children naturally want to be accepted, but when they feel judged, compared, or rejected for being themselves, they slowly begin hiding parts of who they are. They become whoever they think others want them to be. Years later, they may have plenty of friends, yet still feel lonely, because people only know the version they've learned to perform. The greatest fear isn't being alone. It's believing that the real you isn't enough. Hidden wound number 7. I'm never good enough. This is perhaps the quietest wound of all. It doesn't shout. It whispers. Every success feels temporary. Every compliment feels undeserved. Every mistake feels like confirmation. People call it low confidence. But often it's much deeper than confidence. It's a belief that was planted years ago and quietly repeated until it became your inner voice. The heartbreaking part is that many people spend their entire lives trying to prove this belief wrong, without ever questioning whether it was true in the first place. Because the voice saying, "You're not enough," may never have been yours. It may simply be an echo from your past.